What is up, guys? Evil Duos Arm here today, and today I have for you a video where we're going to be going through all of the class changes that occurred in the most recent patch, the Dark Origins patch. So I put out a little video a little while ago that had some of the changes, some of the most notable changes, but this is going to go through every single class and go over each of the changes to their skills that they received. Some classes received more changes than others, and I'm going to put a little table of the contents like right now in this video to go ahead and show you where each class is, so if you want to just fast forward to your class, because this is going to be a longer video. Anyway, we're going to start alphabetical order, and we're going to start with Assassin. So Dark Strike, Lightning Crash, and Lightning Rod, so the shadow versions of those skills for the shadow build, all do area of effect damage now, instead of just doing single target damage, which is pretty cool, giving the the Dark Assassin, some AoE capability. There's various issues were fixed with the landing a critical hit for a large amount of skills. So a lot of the skills on the Assassin, if you hit a critical hit, it procs other skills, so like Dark Strike or things like that. So a lot of those skills had changes made to them to help make it more consistent in the of the landing of that. So that's a bit of a buff overall for the Assassin right there. Also, the effect of the Eternity Soul Badge. It recovers 2 focus on a successful Heart Stab instead of enabling Dark Strike, landing critical strike with Heart Stab. So basically the Soul Badge now does something instead of what the skill just did already on its own, which is pretty cool. It actually makes it a pretty useful Soul Badge to help maintain your focus during combat. So Mist Slash, your left mouse button, the Hong Moon Mist Slash now recovers 2 additional focus upon a critical hit and no longer enables Dark Strike on a critical hit. That is because Dark Strike has been changed to working whenever you get a successful hit with Heart Stab. So you no longer need to hit a critical hit with Heart Stab. You can go ahead and just, anytime you hit Heart Stab, you will get Dark Strike to proc. So these are a lot of Shadow Assassin buffs that we're seeing here. So also your stealth, your tab. It fixed an issue where if you used your tab escape, sometimes the flashbang animation that happens to your opponent wasn't playing out. So they fixed it so it always works now. And yeah, that's basically the changes that happened there. Shun Po, your E, the tooltip has been changed, so that's not really a buff or anything. It just correctly states that you have 1 second of immunity when you use that skill. So those are the Assassin changes, guys. So now we're going to go over to Blade Dancer. Blade Dancer didn't receive too many changes. I already covered the biggest one, is that you now have Awakened Lightning Flash, Awakened Sunder, Awakened Thundering Typhoon, all available during Soulburn, and Thunder Slash, Skyward Slash, your X, now has a cooldown of 1.5 seconds, or 15 seconds, I'm sorry. It's down from 18, so a little bit of a buff to the Blade Dancer. Alright, so Blade Master. 5-point strike, dual strike, and Sundering Sword all now have their cooldowns displayed on the bar, on the cooldown bar, and it also adjusted the visual position of swords equipped by Yun when out of combat, so the position on the back where the sword is placed has been changed. Your left mouse button, Breeze, would sometimes apply item effects twice, so they've fixed it so it only applies it once now. Blade Echo is now available on a successful hit with Raid, which is something we already went over in the other video. Blade Echo also now grants the Conflagration effect for 2 seconds, so the increased fire damage and letting you spam the right mouse button. And it also grants Lightning Fulmination effect for 4 seconds if you're on the Lightning build. So depending on your build, you can go ahead and get various buffs to those skills. So your flicker, your left mouse button, now only absorbs 2% of your damage dealt as HP, down from 4%. However, Dragon Tongue, right mouse button, is up 2%, up from 1% up to 2% health absorption. Hone Slash now decreases the cooldown of Blade Echo by 1 second instead of Flash Step. That was your right mouse button skill. It'll decrease the cooldown. Conflagration Flash, so the skill that you use after a block, a successful block, has a reduced delay after you use it from when you can go ahead and start spamming your right mouse button. Lunar Slash Tab fixed an issue where it was not granting the conflagration effect, so that's a little bit of a quality of life improvement. Your Rush Move 2 can no longer be used as a joint attack, so that's a bit of a downside. Can't get that joint attack. However, your Boot X, so your kick move, it now applies 2 stun joint attacks, so for Dawn of Kani Vihar or any other dungeons and mechanics such as Sogan's Lament where you need to get a stun on something, a double stun, you can get the double stun off of your boot now, so that's pretty cool buff. 5-point strike, your 3. Cyclone can now be cast immediately after using after you resist with 5-point strike. It has a longer delay before it goes away, so you can use it, maybe use a couple skills, and then use your Cyclone left mouse button. So that's a pretty cool little buff. Lightning Strike, Searing Slash, your 4. It fixed an issue where it was not working 8 meters away from the target when you were in draw stance, so it just helped its range a little bit there. Phoenix Wing Blade Call is now lasts for 2 more seconds. It's up to 14 seconds. It also fixed a issue where it was not, or where it would heal the user for 5% on a hit. So that was something that wasn't intended, and it was happening. So Flash Step V still no longer has skill requirements. You don't have to hit anything first before it goes off, and Flash Step can now be used up to 3 times consecutively on hit with instead of requiring a critical hit. So you can continuously use Flash Step. So those are all the changes to the Blade Master. So now we're going to go ahead and move into the Destroyer. So the Destroyer, they changed the priority now. So if you noticed in one of my videos where I went through the Destroyer, I mentioned that you had to pick your, you had to spec for the knee that required a defensive action, otherwise it would be overtaking your damage on Gale Force. You'd be doing a daze instead. So now they switched it to Mighty Cleave or Gale Force. I'm assuming they just didn't put it in the patch notes. Knee and then grab. So now you will not be hitting the knee skill instead of hitting the skill that you need. So in addition to that, the Allevian Soul Badge now activates upon using Ember Stomp instead of a hit with Ember Stomp, which is pretty cool. Awakened Wrath is no longer available. We went over this, and instead you have Awakened Mighty Cleave and Awakened Gale Force on a during Soul Burn. So a little bit of a damage shift. It should be pretty comparable damage though. So now, big change here is that Ram 2, your 2, Ram, the first move now applies 2 stun joint attacks, which is really cool, which means now on Dawn Kind of Bihar, until they change it to the 12-man anyway, you can go ahead and get an entire stun, 4-man stun combo on your mobs there with your 1, 2, and then V. So you don't even need a team to take out a whole mob, which is pretty awesome. And also in Sogan's Lament now you can get a double stun on the mobs without needing your team, so it's pretty useful change, giving you 4 stuns now. For PvE anyway. PvP it shouldn't make much of a difference. Long Division has been moved to the 4 hotkey instead of the F hotkey, so when someone grabs an enemy, the skill has been changed to 4 instead of F. Your knee F is it no longer needs a critical hit as a skill requirement, so you can just go ahead and knee someone anytime you want. Iron Plating has been moved to the V hotkey from the F hotkey, so that is the key when you're using your shield, and then you can give your team the party resist. So Iron Plating now recovers 20% HP instead of 30%. It has a cooldown of 36 seconds, up from 24 seconds. They fixed an issue where it was not being applied to party members affected by Airborne, so that makes it a little bit more consistent. And the increased movement speed damage reductions are being changed in order to correctly time with the ending of the skill. So if the skill ends, you no longer receive the buffs. There was a bit of an overhang on that. Typhoon, your Q, the Move 3 Spec 3, applies knockdown for 2 seconds after the initial 11-meter knockback. So after you knock someone away with Q, then it knocks them down for another 2 seconds, which is a pretty cool little PvP movement. And then your SS, it now resists damage for status effects slightly longer, so you have a little bit more of a time frame on your iframes for your back leap on the Destroyer, which is pretty nice due to the lack of actual immunities that the Destroyer has. So that is the Destroyer. We're getting to the Force Master. The comment section on the other video, there were a lot of people actually upset about the Force Master not receiving any changes. So they did get a few general neutral changes here. Bit of a PvP decrease, but PvE-wise it shouldn't make too much of an impact. So there were an issue with the skills that apply Frost and the skills that apply Burn. They were applying it even if the skill missed. So what they did is they changed it so that it only applies when you have successfully hit. So PvP, it is a skill that it is something you're going to be losing out a little bit of damage or effects on. However, PvE, just about every attack hits anyway, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. The Inferno, your X, has now been changed so that it always grants a Flame Orb on a critical hit. Before that was having some problems and not actually happening. So that's pretty cool. A little bit of a buff, not too much of anything. But it is a bit of a change. So next up is the Kung Fu Master. The Kung Fu Master has a change to the Fighting Spirit. So Fighting Spirit has actually been removed from the Kung Fu Master. Swift Strike 2, Hongmu skill Swift Strike. It absorbs 6% HP damage instead of 10%, so a bit of a nerf. Cyclone Kick now absorbs 2% of the damage dealt as HP, so that is your F. Fighting Spirit, your Tab, it was removed, so instead it refreshes the cooldown of Comet Strike, move 1 and 3 every second for 10 seconds. So you can go ahead and spam your 4 skill while you have that. Also grants an additional damage equal to 200% of the to Tiger Strike and Cyclone Kick. So your 2 and your F get a 200% AP attack damage bonus during your Fighting Spirit tab skill. So Rising Dragon Z, Rising Dragon move 2 now applies 2 joint stun attacks. So that's pretty cool. Your Z will now give a double stun, useful for Sovin's Lament, useful for Khan Vihar, useful for anything where you need to hit those mechanics. So Awaken Searing Palm X now increases the damage of Tiger Strike, Cyclone Kick, and Searing Palm Awaken Unleash Flow. Stage 4 is active. That's a lot of words. It basically is saying that your Tiger Strike and Cyclone Kick and Searing Palm, so your 2 skills, all receive increased damage when you reach max stage of your Searing Palm stacks, which is 4. So, and then also Tremor V move 1 cannot be used as a joint attack. So you no longer can get the stun off of your V. So instead of having to hit ZV to combo to get your double stun, you just go ahead and hit Z once, and you can keep the Tremor spec to the increased damage spec, or you can keep it on the stun for PvP. So those are the changes to the Kung Fu Master. So Soul Fighter. Soul Fighter received a bunch of changes here. So first off, general changes, Lightning Fist and Leg Sweep now share global cooldowns, so you can only use one or the other. The cooldown is persistent between 2. Straight Jab, left mouse button, Frost move 1 now deals frost damage instead of earth. The additional damage from Straight Jab hitting the enemy from behind has been moved to the base skill, so you no longer have an additional damage, it just always procs on a hit. Right Punch, right mouse button, the additional damage gained from right punching from behind has been moved to the main skill, so once again it's just a bit of a damage buff on that. Hongmoon right punch move 1 now stacks 2 energy on hit, which is pretty cool. So that right mouse button, you can go ahead and stack 2 energy on your Frost build and go ahead and increase your damage output, because then you can stack those Chi levels, Chi levels, Chi levels. Can't pronounce that word. Cobalt Punch right mouse button. So the additional damage from Cobalt 1, once again, was moved to the base of the skill, so you no longer have to worry about being behind them, you just get a damage increase now. Awaken Cobalt Punch right mouse button decreases the cooldown of Iron Shoulder by 3 seconds on hit. It also increases your Chi level by 2, up from 1, which is pretty cool. Power stack that all the way up. Your right mouse button now stacks 2 energy while hitting enemies within the area of effect of Burning Tundra. It's a little bit of a change. King Fist now deals an additional earth damage on a critical hit. A bit of a damage increase as well to the earth build. Howling Blast F, move 2 now deals extra area of effect damage, which is pretty cool. A little bit of a AoE damage increase. Breaking Claw F, the additional damage from Breaking Claw has been moved to the base skill, so you no longer need to be behind the enemy to get the bonus damage from Breaking Claw. Windstorm F fixed an issue where Windstorm would not reapply airborne, so when you, I believe it's an SS out after knocking someone up in the air, and you can keep them in the air, so it reapplies airborne instead of just letting them fall. Burning Tundra, your V now has a cooldown of 36 seconds, down from 45 seconds, so that's a bit of a buff as well, since you can go ahead and spam that 3 times. It really means it only has a downtime of, what, about 20 seconds? So that's pretty cool, little buff to the Burning Tundra, since it does buff the rest of your Frost skills. So those are the Soul Fighter buffs. So now on to Summoner. So Moonfall 1, your 1 skill, has been moved to the F hotkey, so from the F hotkey to the 1 hotkey, so that is your skill when someone's held or grabbed or anything like that. It also applies a Weed Whack when you hit, so they just changed the button on that. Vine Whip and Thorn Strike. So Vine Whip move 1 and Thorn Strike move 1 and now have a vertical hitbox of 16 meters, so you have a higher height you can hit with that skill, so if someone's in the air, someone's jumping, or something like that. Enhanced Seed Shroud 4. So Seed Shroud, this is bad, I can't pronounce this at all, has been moved from the F hotkey to the 4 hotkey. So that is when you are using the block skill, your little flower skill, to try and give the party stealth, like an Emendrake Citadel or some other dungeon where you need to get party stealth, is now a 4-4 instead of a 4F to go ahead and get that combo. Seed Shroud can no longer be used immediately after Seed Shroud, so you have to start your Seed Shroud a little bit early. You can't just 4-4 spam it. Seed Shroud can now be used for a short period after Seed Shroud ends. So even if the cast fails, even if you're past the point where you could hit the button, still have a chance to be able to hit it a second time a little bit after it ends. And it fixed an issue where Enhanced Seed Shroud would sometimes fail to cast, a little bit of a quality of life improvement. Familiar can no longer be affected by casting Farewell. Don't know really what that does, to be totally honest. But if you're a summoner, you do know what that means. Huzzah, your Z now heals the Familiar for 20% of its health, up from 10%, so a bit of a buff to the heal. Hammer Spin, it would not be used in rare occasions if you were to click it, so they made a little quality of life improvement. Also, the Hammer Spin has an icon when you are affected by Grab, Phantom Grab, Stun, or Daze, so just a little pretty luminous change there. C can no longer be used on targets affected by Airborne Strike, that is, so you have to have them on the ground, you can't just aerial people for days. Beckon E now has an updated icon when the skill is on cooldown, just another quality of life improvement. Lunge has a cooldown of 36 seconds now, down from 45. The cooldown can be reduced by 6 upon a hit with playtime. So the one where you keep someone up in the air, you can decrease the cooldown of your lunge by another 6 seconds. And Roundabout now also heals the Familiar for 10% of its health. Alright, so those are the changes to the Summoner. Now we are on to the Warlock, the final class in this little bit of a video here. So, Circle of Wrath now increases attack power by 5%, up from 3%. So this is the red buff area for your Thrall. Circle of Wrath now has a cooldown of 10 seconds. It's down from 18 seconds, which is pretty cool. Also, to keep your DPS up a little bit, Hallowed Ground now has a cooldown of 10 seconds, down from 18 seconds. So that is the one that recovers Chi, or Focus, or whatever it's called for your class. So that has a lower cooldown. Dragon Call has a cooldown reduced to 1.5 seconds, down from 2.5 seconds. Also, I've been seeing some posts and comments and stuff about how Dragon Call now has some problems where you can't see it, so that might be a little error that looks to be fixed here in the near future. But apparently Dragon Call is still casting, but has invisibility problems after this latest patch. Rupture F, it fixed an issue where the Frost version would not reduce the cooldown with a successful hit, reduce the cooldown of Dragon Call without a successful hit. So that was a bit of a change. Tetherblade X now employs 2 knockdown, and Move 2 now applies 2 daze, so you get double daze, double knockdown, joint attacks to help with mechanics. So the double knockdown on Asura, or double daze in Ebendrake Citadel, so a bit of a change there. Wingstorm Move 1 now absorbs 50% of the damage dealt as HP, and that is the final change here in this video. So yeah, it is up to 18 minutes right now. I told you this was going to be a longer one. Sorry, I apologize if you've made it this far. But I hope you found something useful about your class. I hope you picked something out to help you decide which class you want to pick, maybe even if you're a noob to the game. Or, yeah, so anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you found it useful. Got a lot of great stuff on the channel, so if there is something that you like, please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you at the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.